Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, February 5th. I'm Gary Stevens. First Friday of the month, we spotlight the Holland Department of Public Safety, either fire services or the police unit. And today it is the police unit that gets the spotlight. And we are joined by Captain Robert Buursma at the police headquarters. Good morning, Bob, and welcome back to WHTC.
Morning, Gary. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Glad you are with us. And, of course, this is a Zoom connection. Our listeners can join in over the phone by calling 395-1450, 395-1450. A couple things we will touch upon with Bob in a few moments. But first, let us deal with the immediate, and that is Wintry Driving. And the tips, for many people, they're obeying them. But it's always, there's always a couple that figure, hey, I got a four-wheel drive vehicle. I can be able to drive as, fast as I can. These other vehicles are going slow, or, I'm behind a garbage truck. Come on, let me get around them. Let's just say wiser heads should be used in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when the roads are snowy and icy, as they are today, the most prudent thing is to drive slow, because obviously your stopping distance, if something happens, is a lot greater. It's going to take a lot longer distance. And if you go into a curve, the momentum of a vehicle wants to go in a straight line. Momentum likes to go just straight forward. However, you're trying to go through a curve and you have less friction, and that's what's keeping you on the roadway between the tire and the ice. Obviously, is less friction than there would be between concrete and asphalt. So that's why going through a curve coming in too fast, you have people end up in the ditch or in a snowbank or something like that. And, you mentioned about four-wheel drive too. I tell you what, I don't work the road anymore. I'm fortunate now to be in my office and listening to the radio, the guys out there dealing with all the traffic problems, and I'm not having to be out there doing that today. But I tell you what, I did many, many years of it. The number of times I pulled somebody out of it, well, I didn't pull them out myself, but I was there to call the tow truck, and their comment was, I don't understand how this happened. I had my vehicle in four-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive helps you get going, gives you traction. If you got to stop, doesn't do much good.
Not only that, it doesn't give you much good, but it's good when you have to go through some a little heavier snow situations. You don't get stuck, or you don't think you're spinning wheels. But it's not a panacea. And if you're waiting for Mr. Toe, it's going to be a while. they're going to be, or shall we say, Ms. Toe, because we do have some ladies that do it as well, and we appreciate all their help. And of course, the other thing we always say about a condition such as this, give the plow drivers, be it on the roadways with the road commission or the private plow drivers in the parking lots, give them berths. Yes, they have to do their job. Let them do their job. And private plow guys, make sure that you watch for traffic as well as you're sort of backing up, trying to clear out those parking lots, because sometimes vehicles, you think they can stop, they don't stop, and all of a sudden you got to explain to the boss, why did our truck get dinged up? Well, you got to watch out for that. 395-1450 if you have a question for Holland Department of Public Safety Captain Bob Buursma. One other thing I want to touch base with you on, Bob, before we move forward with a survey, and that is Sunday. Sunday, of course, is Super Bowl Sunday. One of the busier days of the year under normal circumstances. 2021 is not normal, even though restaurants can have some capacity and perhaps the Super Bowl parties won't be so big. It's still going to be a pretty busy time, I'm afraid, for your men and women in blue to try to make sure that people are obeying the traffic laws in all aspects, be it happy if their team wins or sad if their team loses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't know what to expect because of exactly like you said, COVID. We do anticipate probably the number of parties will be down, or at least, you won't have the big groups gathering. One of the things that often go with Super Bowl parties is the consumption of alcohol. And we just would like to remind people, if you're going to consume, that's fine. If you're an adult, certainly you're right to do it, but have a designated driver so that you can get home safely. Last thing that we want to see is somebody end up in a crash, somebody get injured because of that. It's just not worth the risk. Have a designated driver. And also, of course, the risk of getting stopped and arrested for drunk driving. And with that, a lot of impact to it, fines, possible jail time, but also the increase in insurance rates that comes along with a drunk driving conviction. So we'll see what Sunday brings. A lot of it is going to also be weather dependent in terms of kind of what we're seeing, people being out, noise, that type of thing. So, but it's looking like it's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit nippy. A quick question. I don't know whether or not you can answer this, Bob. With the rise of the ride share industry, more people, getting their side job for Uber and other services. Has that sort of helped a little bit in terms of cutting down with people? If they have had a few too much, they can get an Uber drive, and have we seen a little bit of decrease, or is that too early, or something that you can't really answer?
On a local level, I can't say whether or not that's impacted our numbers or not. Our numbers have been fairly consistent over the years. The one thing that Uber has done, you don't see the number of taxis around anymore. So that was always an option prior. Are more people choosing Uber now because that's available as opposed to getting a taxi before? I don't know. That would probably be the type of thing that on a state or national level, they'd have to really look at the numbers involved and try to figure out what type of an impact that may or may not be happening.
Yeah, the side hustle is what the term I was trying to remember. And that might, granted, we're still only in the infancy of the Uber and other industry ride systems, and we'll see the impact probably in a couple of years or so when they have a larger number there. 395. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
You say it is certainly a very convenient option. You got the app right on your phone, and just to pull up an Uber, and I've done it myself in Grand Rapids and a couple other places when you're a big city needing to get around. It's a great way to do it. Great option. So yeah, another option just for Super Bowl Sunday for people. I know we have Uber drivers here in Holland. Another option to get safely home.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on Talk of the Town with Captain Bob Buursma.
Yeah, I got two questions. You talk about drunk driving. How about that marijuana? That could be a problem too. They could be under the influence.
Okay, and the other question? The other question you had, sir?
Yeah, the cold case by Port Sheldon where that woman got killed and they never found who did it. Are you guys working that case with the other police force?
All right, we'll get that question answered. Appreciate the call. That might be an Ottawa County sheriff's situation, Bob, but it's a cooperative situation. Very similar to the Janet Chandler situation of a few years ago. Departments do work together.
Absolutely. That's a great example you gave with the Janet Chandler murder. That was we had two officers, and Michigan State Police had we had two detectives, as did Michigan State Police. They worked on that for a lengthy period of a couple of years. Several years, and we're able to bring it to a successful conclusion. I know we've run other ones. I know the sheriff's office has too. I'm not familiar with this particular one. That would be something that the sheriff's office would have investigated. That would be their cold case as to whether or not they're doing it or not.
Steve Kempker and or Mark Bennett might be the people to talk to with the sheriff's department. First part of that question, though, Bob, dealing with the recreational marijuana situation. It's been in the books for a couple of years now, and there's been efforts by some state lawmakers to give police units a little bit more ammunition, lack of a better term, a little bit more availability to be able to test for marijuana use with that as well. How important will that be in terms of enforcing traffic laws because of the relaxed marijuana standards we have in the state?
Well, there's no doubt in driving while under the influence of marijuana and that type of thing is certainly on the increase, at least from the numbers that I've seen on a state level and national level from OHSP and NHTSA. So that's definitely increased. There is the difficulty, the challenge that there is not the same type of a roadside test like we have with alcohol for the preliminary breath test. That's simple. It's easy. We can get a measurement right on the spot. Do not have that with marijuana currently. I do know there are things in the works, that there are different types of kits and testing units that are being done. We also added a DRE, drug recognition expert, to our ranks not too long ago. One of our officers sent him to some specialized training. He's I think the 4th in the county. Ottawa County Sheriff's Office has one, Grand Haven and Grand Valley State University. And they do have a whole battery of tests that they can give and do a much better job at determining exactly what, not necessarily specific narcotic somebody is on, but maybe a classification of what they're on.
Silly question. I'll admit this is a silly question. Can dogs help in that regard? Can the canine unit help in terms of spotting?
Not necessarily for intoxicated driving. It may give an indication if there's something available. So you have the potential that, an individual has something on board, but they wouldn't be able to tell whether or not an individual has been, consuming, using whatever, any illegal substance to determine level of impairment.
And the reason why I brought it up, because sometimes, you see in the dramas, police units coming out with the dogs out and they're trying to sniff for contraband. And, that's why I brought that point up there, Bob. But, as you say, sometimes practicality just doesn't work. And, our canine units, be it with the Holland Department of Public Safety or the other departments that have canine units, we certainly appreciate. I know they're not puppies. I always call them puppies. The puppies that do the police puppies that do a very good job.
Yeah,
395, 395-1450, 395-1450. Citizen survey. Is it almost like a survey saying, okay, how are we doing, folks? And the survey sort of helps you out, or tell us a little bit about the survey, some of the results and some of the reaction by the department on that.
So this is a statistically valid survey that is conducted by the Hope College Frost Research Center. We don't commission it as a Department of Public Safety, obviously. That comes ultimately from City Council, and it's something that's done every 4 years. And I know it's been done in 2016, 2012. I do not know how far back it went. I'm sure it's part of the intent initially was to just get a pulse on the community and how people feel the city is doing in terms of providing its services. I got to imagine that when City Council or whoever decided initially to do this way back whenever, that was a big part of the reason. So it's continued. And 2021 was done. The results just came out, I think, about a week and a half ago. And we had posted actually something about it on our Facebook post or our Facebook page, and then the Sentinel also did a story on it last week, and we were very pleased with the results of it. In terms of the level of trust within the community, our score was very, very high. In fact, it was a 4.17 out of on a 5-point scale. So that's very high, and particularly given nationally what's been going on, sort of the national narrative around law enforcement, some of the things you hear and read about in the media, and some of the perspectives nationally towards law enforcement, that those numbers nationally are trending down, and yet we remained fairly constant with where we were in 2016 and 2012. So certainly something for us to celebrate. The same thing was true with quality of service. We scored the end result of the survey was a 4.34. So again, there's a clear indication that many of the citizens of the city are pleased with our service and what we're doing. And, we attribute that to a lot of different things. When you see nationally what's going on, and yet we're staying the same. And I think I'd say an investment that we've made over the years, being involved in the community, all the many programs that we have done and been a part of, trying to find ways to get involved in people's lives and impact them. And even the small things of the officers helping people out, sometimes even buying groceries or getting somebody a hotel room for the night, that type of thing. I mean, those incidences happen. And, the other thing too is these other events that, many people have been involved or had their kids involved in the Junior Police Academy, or they've been involved in the Citizen Police Academy, just a great opportunity to get involved and see on a much more intimate level what we do, to have come in, for a fall. We used to do it twice a year, it's now once a year, just to really get a good inside look at what we do. And everybody who goes through that is always amazed. And at the end of it, the comments that we hear about, I had no idea, didn't realize everything that goes on in Holland, those type of things. But we've done the volunteers in policing. We've got the Police Community Relations Commission. We've done scholarships, the community cookout, the coffee with a cop, shop with a cop, the gas giveaways, all these different things, just trying to be involved. And I think a lot of that investment over the years of, I would say, making deposits into the our trust bank, so to speak, with the community. I think it's paying off, and we're seeing the result of that now. Now, of course, that also doesn't mean that we're done. Well, I said, we can celebrate it. There's no doubt we can always improve. Any organization, no matter what you are, no matter how well you're doing, you can do better. And so this past year, the chief has decided our focus for this coming year is continuous pursuit of excellence. And so we're going to try to now continue on with that and take it to the next level. We've started an accreditation process, which is taking all our policy and procedures and evaluating them against a whole list of standards nationally that, different organizations hold up and say, this is what you should have in your policy and procedures. So we're going to go, even though we think that they're good, we want to make sure, and we're going to go through everything. And at the end of this, we will be an accredited agency, something we've never looked at in the past. We've got, we're looking at body cams. It's going to be a very expensive project, but I think it'd be one that'd be well worth investing in. We've got the in-car cameras that we've had those for years. They've certainly paid off having them in the cruiser, particularly when we had some complaints about what officers, may or may not have done, and to be able to pull the video up and see exactly what happened. I know for me, as when I was the patrol captain, made my job a lot easier to be able to just go and take a look at it. There are times I'd have complaints that I didn't even have to speak to the officers because I could just watch the video.
It is certainly helpful. Let's see if we got a call here. Good morning. You're on the line with Captain Bob Buursma.
Yes, good morning. Just a comment, concern. Noticed last night the guys were out at a crash at 31 and 32nd. It was snowing and blowing pretty heavily at the time, and the officers, I guess even the fire department, they wondered, do they have reflective type gear that they can wear out there with that type of weather condition? Because they were, even visibility wise, was very poor. Just kind of concerned about that. Just wonder if you could comment on that. Thank you.
I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Reflective vests. You want to say that's standard operating procedure, but sometimes, especially when things have to be done promptly, sometimes that can be put in the back burner, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody has vests. All our officers do. I know the firefighters have reflective gear. For us, when we get to that point where we're directing traffic, yes, they are required to have their traffic vests on. But in the initial moments of a crash, when you first get there, especially if it's an injury crash, that type of thing, and you're tending to patients, sometimes some of those other things take precedence over throwing a traffic vest if you haven't gotten to that point yet. So, but I can take a look into that incident. Actually, I'll give it to our patrol captain to take a look at, since I don't deal with that stuff anymore.
Yeah. Well, the ones that you're here with us, so you talk with that as well. Good morning. You're on the line with Captain Buursma.
Good morning. I'm wondering what the protocol is on accidents. Years ago, and this might be 30 years ago or more, it seems like if there was an accident, that there was always a ticket involved. In other words, every accident had a cause, either your equipment wasn't good or you didn't have your car under control for the conditions and this and that. Has that eased up? In other words, you could almost say, well, it was an act of God. It was the weather. What is the protocol now?
I appreciate the call. You can listen to the answer off the air, Bob.
Yep. So our standard for the most part, if there's a clear violation, then a citation needs to be written for the violation that led to the crash. Is it always clear? No, particularly with red lights. Those can be problematic at times, especially if you have two people who both say they had a green light and they're coming from opposite directions, or 90 degrees to each other, and we have no witnesses. Then it's just, who do you prove who's telling the truth? I've handled many of those over the years, and you just put them as both unknown for who's at fault for the crash. This time of year, when you've got the snowy, icy conditions that we have, there is a statute which requires, it's called the basic speed law. You have to drive at such a speed that you can maintain control of your vehicle, is really what it boils down to. And so it's different than the absolute speed law, which if you see a speed limit sign that says 35 miles an hour, you can't go faster than that. Basic speed law, basically, you could be doing 25 miles an hour in that 35 mile an hour zone and still get a speeding ticket because you were going too fast for the conditions of the road. So they both come into play. There are times where we will make exceptions, and sometimes it can be a judgment call on the part of the officer. If things are fairly clear and there's one slick spot that would be difficult to notice and somebody hits that and slides out, we're still going to show them at fault on the crash report, where we may not issue a citation. Obviously, their insurance rates will be affected by that, and with the mini tort, they may end up having to also pay part of the other vehicle's damages if that comes into play. But by and large, we still see citations issued for the at-fault driver in most crash situations.
I will say one probable mitigating factor that might not necessitate any citations is if a crash is caused because of a medical condition.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And those are rare, but we've had that once in a while where somebody's going down the road and has a heart attack or something.
Yeah. That's
unusual.
one. Yeah, that's one case where, it would be nice. I want to finish our conversation with a story we got over the wires from Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Police Department, Bob, is reunited with a pair of handcuffs that have been missing from the department for more than 60 years. A man who now lives near San Diego mailed them back earlier this week, saying he was trying to teach his grandkids a lesson about doing the right thing. Man got the handcuffs as a teenager watching a fight between an officer and a suspect outside of a local restaurant. And the cuffs apparently fell right at his feet during the scuffle. The now 74-year-old man says he always felt guilty about having those handcuffs at home. So he mailed them back along with an apology letter and a donation of $100. I want to leave our conversation with that. Hey, if it's police property, give it back to the police. They can use it a lot better than you. Bob Buursma.
60 years old, we probably won't need it.
Bob Buursma, Police Captain, Holland Department of Public Safety. Thank you for joining us today on WHTC's Talk of the Town. Wish you and all with the department well and good safety over the next while. I know we'll be talking later on in the year on Talk of the Town. Bob, thank you.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Bob Buursma on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.